You know that feeling when you need to paint, not to finish something perfect, but just to loosen up, reconnect with the brush and fall back in love with the process. That's exactly what this study was about. No pressure, just oil paints, a small piece of paper, a few colours and a little time to breathe and explore. In this video I'm sharing the full time lapse of that process with all the decisions, messiness and many breakthroughs along the way. And if you want to watch the entire session in real time, 45 minutes of brushstroke by brushstroke painting, you can find it on my Patreon, the link's in the description. I'm working on an 8x8 inch piece of oil painting paper from Canson. My colours are fairly limited: titanium whites, a few cadmium colours, cobalt blue, ultramarine blue and burnt sienna, which forces better colour harmony. And I'm using water mixed oil paints and solvent-free gel as my medium. It's just an easy cleanup with the water mixed oil paints. It's great for quick ad prima paintings, and I'm using both brushes and palette knives. So this one started with a simple intention to loosen up. However, this is also a study of a much larger painting that I'm going to be working on. This just gives me a bit of practice before committing to the final artwork. I've been working on larger pieces recently and found myself overthinking. So I decided to go back to basics and give myself permission to just paint. I kept the reference loose and didn't grid or sketch too much. I was more interested in how the painting felt than what it looked like. From the start, my focus was gesture, lights and edge control. I wanted that balance between control and accidents. Something honest, imperfect and alive. The sky came first, soft, quiet layers of muted blue, some warmth creeping into the horizon. I love starting what's in the distance and kind of moving forwards. However, I do dance around a little bit, so I wouldn't just start from one corner of the surface and work my way to the next corner. I just find that I get more expressive kind of balance when I kind of dance around the canvas a little bit. I'm not fussing with blending too much, just want to kind of let the brush do what it does. I find that skies always work better when I stop trying to perfect them. So in the early stages I used a slightly larger brush than felt comfortable. It was a deliberate choice. It stopped me from getting too tight too soon. The goal here wasn't detail, it was about big shapes, clear value separation and identifying where the light hits strongest. One thing I always try and remember: in the first 10 minutes you're just building a stage for the painting to happen. It's not meant to be good yet, it's just meant to give you options. If you look closely, you'll notice that I'm playing with edges. I want a nice balance of soft, medium, hard edges, giving the painting more depth and interest. That's one of the keys to painting loosely, but believably, knowing what to suggest and what to define. We can achieve so much when we don't strive for too much detail. That mad mix of abstraction, impressionism, and hints of detail really makes for an interesting painting, in my opinion. Moving down into the sea, I layered subtle changes in temperature and value. I love how oil paint lets you create that soft push and pull between warm and cool. There's a lot of scraping and reapplying here. I try to carve out the plain edges, the plain changes, without outlining anything. I'm thinking in bands, not objects. Each stroke suggests the structure, but nothing is spelled out yet. It keeps it alive that way. Some of the texture you're seeing comes from how I drag the brush almost sideways, letting it skip across dry areas to create that broken, painterly effect. By the way, if you're enjoying seeing how this all unfolds, I share these full-length studies uncut real time with full commentary. It's me painting in the moment over on Patreon. This one's about 45 minutes long and I talk through every stage that it happens. You can check that out at the link below. And the sands, this is where I had probably the most fun. I pushed the orange and ochre tones more than I normally would, just to feel it out. I used a knife for some of the thicker paint and let myself be really messy with it. I'm not looking for smooth transitions, or maybe a little bit. I'm more kind of looking for rhythm. I'm also looking with ways that I can create different kind of variety of texture. So some of these marks were made with the back of the palette knife, scratching into the wet paint. I kind of like that surface disruption. It reminds me that a painting doesn't have to sit still. And I generally believe that you get the best of both worlds when you use palette knives and paintbrushes, and also a catalyst wedge if you're kind of painting bigger. As I got into the final third, it became more about restraints, not over modelling, not over blending, and letting some brushwork stay visible. When I paint this way, I'm constantly asking, does this mark describe the form? Or am I just noodling? If it's the latter, I scrape it, and I actually love scraping the paint away because you're often left with stain, causing this abstract effect, kind of like showing your mistakes, and I think it's really cool. You'll notice that I left some paints pretty raw, and that was intentional. I want the viewer to feel the energy more than the precision. Especially in studies, I'd rather risk something bold than overwork something safe. I know that this is a study and I'm allowed to experiment and not worry about anything really. Just enjoy the process and try and create something that I'm fairly happy with, whilst keeping it kind of experimental. With studies, you're not chasing perfection, you're freer to make real decisions. You stop asking, is this good? And start asking, is this me? I think a lot of growth in painting happens quietly, in pieces no one ever sees. This one might end up tucked in a drawer, but it taught me something about light, about letting go, about trusting that loose can still be intentional. And sometimes painting without overthinking, just reacting, adjusting, responding, that's when you make your best marks. And also about studies like this is that they feed into your larger work. They don't have to be masterpieces, they just need to teach you something. For me, this one reminded me how valuable small studies can be. No pressure, just paint and see what happens. And if you're looking to grow in your own painting practice, or you're finding that your paintings are a little bit too tight, then I recommend doing more of these. Keep it small, stay curious, and don't get precious. Give yourself perhaps an hour, and just don't overthink it and see what happens. Now the final result isn't flawless, but there's kind of honesty in it, and I'm proud of it. I know that the sands is slightly more vibrant than I would have liked, and maybe I would tone down the shoreline slightly, but with this short study, I'm on the right track. Again, if you want to see how this whole painting unfolded in real time with every brushstroke, you can find the full 45-minute version on my Patreon. Links down below. Is a great way to paint along, pause whenever you need, and really see the process as it happens. Thanks so much for watching. I hope this inspired you to pick up the brush today. Let me know in the comments what kind of studies you'd like to see next. See you soon.